Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm here with the finale episode of Ted Lasso for season 2. Just FYI, I am Ashley. I am a licensed therapist. I'm going to respond and react to the episode from that perspective and from a personal perspective as well. And I have done other videos prior to this where I analyzed the character of Ted with his therapist, and then I've also analyzed the character of Nate. And so I'll be using that knowledge and what I've thought about there in those videos to see if I was right, to see if I was wrong, to see if I read it, how did I read it, what did I misread, all of those things. So we'll see how it turned out. Oddly, I've been traveling and I've been back and forth, and so I don't know what I thought. I thought I'd finished the season, but as it turns out, there are 2 more episodes, so I'm excited. And so I haven't seen these, and you'll see my real-time reactions. I am gonna let this marinate and come back with more thoughts tomorrow, because I like wanna watch one pass and like I give you the reaction, but then I'm gonna think about it more and let it sit with me and see what comes to me about any of it. I'll come back and splice in whatever other bits that I come up with that I just think are so important to say.
Ted Lasso left in the middle of the Tottenham match this season, not due to stomach problems, but because of a panic attack.
George, Lasso's clearly not fit to coach. Come on now.
It's very easy to criticize a panic attack, and it's so easy to criticize it as weak or someone not being made of tough enough stuff to lead something. But actually, I think the reverse is true. I think when you don't have the capacity to feel in that way and to feel panic and to go through that, you're a monster and you're not fit to lead in that case. So because it makes you very human, it's very natural to have a panic attack. Not that you want them and you can work on not having them, but it's so normal. And so to act like it's bad and abnormal and that person shouldn't be in leadership then you're filtering out so many good people and so many solid people who should be leaders and inviting in more monsters who don't feel and are more sociopathic. So
say something here about the panic attacks also. So remember that panic attacks are really a result of pushing down a lot of thoughts and feelings that you don't want to feel or that you think aren't okay. And it takes so much work to keep them down that, you know, something happens and it triggers them, and then you can't anymore, and then you kind of have this panic situation as a result. And I don't know that Ted has learned his lesson yet about that.
And I just say that as a commentary on culture and our culture. And there are plenty of people, I mean, certainly you want a leader who's regulated, emotionally regulated, and who can go deeply into themselves and tolerate many feelings of themselves and many feelings from other people. What you don't want is someone unfeeling who is insensitive and doesn't respond to the world around him or her, like this person seems to be advocating for. I just think we need to normalize having feelings, especially men having feelings. And it's temporary. It went away and he's back.
Hi Ted, remember, the truth will set you free, but first it'll piss you off. I'm here if you want to talk. Good luck this weekend.
The nature of a therapist and client relationship, therapist-patient relationship, you want to always let the patient reach out if they want help. You don't reach out to them first, offering help, because that's her mind. That's her need to do that. It's not his need. And so again, it's her need intruding on the dynamic between the two of them, and it doesn't give him the space to reach out if he needs it, and to assert himself in that way and get what he needs. It's real that it sounds nice coming from her, I guess, but it's actually her need that's causing her to do that, and it's not about him. She might care about him, but it's something in her that she's trying to resolve. She might be worried about him. She might wonder how he's doing, and that's her need to deal with her feeling. So usually you'd want to make sure that your need isn't the thing that's causing you to reach out as the therapist, because it's not Ted's job to handle her need. Her need needs to, she's not paying him. She can go take that elsewhere. He calls it beeswax, and it is his beeswax, I guess. But yeah, it's a moment he could have opened up to somebody, but he doesn't take it. He doesn't take up the offer, and instead he does his usual jokes. And I think it's indicated by the 3 dots and then the 3 dots disappearing that she's disappointed by that. Or that's what I read into it. And he does too, and so he says something again, and so it looks like maybe he's sort of recognizing that he does this. He pushes people away when he actually needs them.
Hey, Coach.
I think here it's important that Beard is just there for Ted in an ordinary way, and he doesn't ask anything of Ted, and he acts like everything's normal, and he lets Ted come to him because Beard knows what's up. He knows how to handle him.
If my father had a panic attack in Normandy, we'd all be speaking German.
I think certainly there's something to being able to compartmentalize feelings at the appropriate times in order to do certain jobs and do certain tasks. But let's not act like that's the way to be at all times, at all moments, and anything else is a failure for a man.
I assume you know what that was all about, yeah? Nope.
Beard is very observant and intuitive, and the quiet stance he takes seems to make him access a lot of the deeper dynamics that are going on between everybody around him, which is why his character is so fun to watch.
Hey, what's the story, Paul Shorey?
Ted.
So sorry about the article, Ted.
Oh, that's okay, Keely.
So Ted all these people express concern for him. Any one of them would be an okay option for talking about his feelings, and he chooses not to. It is frustrating as the person. If you're a person in Ted's life who cares about him, it would be very frustrating because I would be like, open up, let me in, let's share this together, because that's what you do with someone you care about. And so it's frustrating when someone won't let you in. And I think he feels, knowing what we know about his history, I think he feels like people can't be depended on, people can't be relied upon. If you'd like more thoughts on this, I have another video just on that, but on him. But I think he hasn't gotten to rely on a lot of people, so he's still not in the habit of it. And I think, in fact, he feels like people will abandon him when he needs them most, and his therapist did, which still hasn't been processed technically. He's keeping himself distant from other people when he could be getting help, and he's creating difficulty for himself in that way, and he's feeding his own belief that people can't be there for him in a way that he needs.
You seen this?
Yes, it's awful.
Yeah, it was awful.
Beard, what I tell you, he's so intuitive. He knows what's happening underneath the surface, and he's just quietly dealing with things.
It is our choices, gentlemen, that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities.
Choices that show who we are more than any of our abilities, or whatever the exact quote was. I actually thought about Nate in that moment, and so while Nate might be good at this job and probably good at coaching and understanding what to do and plays to make and all that, it's the choices he keeps making about how to behave that tell you the character of who he is.
Okay, Doc. I'll keep an eye out for any messages from the universe. I love you.
I love that relationship with Sam and his dad. Smitten with it. We should all have such good dads. On that note, so many good dads on this show, actually, and lots of good father figures on this show, which is so nice to see.
The boss. Not gonna have time for me anymore.
Shut up, big mouth.
Not gonna have time for me anymore. I mean, is that foreshadowing?
Change the fucking thing. You look powerful.
Yeah, I'm really conflicted watching it. I mean,
Gorgeous.
Roy is so sweet and supportive, doing all the right things and completely non-threatened by her success and power. But what were those 3 hours with the teacher about? Still on my mind.
So, you gonna say anything?
Well, I mean, eventually, yeah. You may have noticed through the years that I can be quite loquacious.
No, to Nate.
Before Ted answers, I just want to say, like, thank God someone's asking him this, because I'm like, are we just gonna like let Nate go along, like go on, like, while you don't want to give too much energy to someone like Nate, you also certainly don't want to not have boundaries with someone like Nate and to not set limits with someone like Nate. So energetically, I would remain indifferent, but I would set boundaries indifferently with like a matter-of-fact tone with him.
I'm pushing nobody.
I think it'll help.
Nate'll be fine.
No, it'll help you. Coach, you keep trying to hold all this in. I'm afraid your mustache is gonna pop off.
Agreed. And Beard is right, because again, Beard is intuitive and he knows what's going on. And so he's the one inviting Ted to come out of his crazy shell and talk about his feelings, but also to say something to Nate, not to correct Nate, but for himself, for Ted, so that Ted can express something in him and address something that needs to be addressed for him and his own well-being. Letting someone like Nate go on without saying anything is that's Ted dismissing himself and his own need. And not that you can make Nate do anything and make Nate apologize. I just don't think that's going to feel good either. But like not saying anything at all is actually Ted dismissing his own feelings, his own thoughts.
It's good.
This is a true friendship.
You helped this panda become a lion.
I'm so proud of
I think
you.
what's so important about that with Rebecca and Keely is it's just so sweet and so loving. Rebecca has people potentially, like Sam potentially leaving her, and now Keely, and she expresses her feeling without being overbearing with it, without being demanding or controlling with it. And this is actually the opposite of Ted, who doesn't show anything and acts like everything's fine, but you know there's something in there. I would prefer it Rebecca's way, where you let the feeling out, but you're not controlled by it. And you get to talk about your feelings and use them and move forward.
There's something I have to confess as well. Roy, when Keely and I went shopping the other day, I kissed her.
Yeah. Just tell me about it.
All Jamie did was talk to me and he wanted to kill him. Do you at least want to headbutt me or something?
Well, again, that's going to hurt Nate's pride because he wants to be seen as dominant or as attractive or something as Jamie Tart. And Roy's making it clear, like, no, we're good. I'm not threatened by you. Thank you, sir. Be on your way. And Nate doesn't love it.
Too much at stake and everyone loses their heads.
Stay back! How many times do I have to fucking tell you? Stay back!
Nate has so much repressed anger and rage toward his father, and it comes out all over the place.
The anger, the outrage, the outbursts, he cannot tolerate and regulate emotion inside himself. He cannot tolerate and regulate negative emotion inside himself. Fear, anxiety, shame. And again, I have to say this again for those listening who feel like you relate to Nate in some way. Yes, of course, we all relate to Nate. We've all done something like this at some point. But unless you are like him, where this is a consistent and rigid behavior of yours, like where no matter what, there's no, like you feel this way, it comes out of you like it does with Nate, where it's just a rigid kind of tendency in your personality, you're not Nate. You just might act like him sometimes, but you're not him. Nate, this is consistent. Doesn't matter what happens to him. He continues to behave this way. He does not reflect on it. It does not change. It only gets worse. Like that is something very different. He's not self-reflective. He's not truly empathic about the people he's hurting. That's very different from how many of us are.
What is it? What'd I do?
You want to know what you did?
Yeah, please.
You made me feel like I was the most important person in the whole world. And then you abandoned me.
So what I want to say about that real quick is in Nate's mind, because you have to remember he has an either or black and white, super split way of seeing the world. There's always two sides and they're two very distinct sides. So in this scenario that he's just described, it's like either he's the most important person in the world to Ted or he's completely abandoned. That's the setup in his mind. And I think that reflects Nate's relationship with his parents. Like his dad, he's completely ignored and dismissed, and his mom can act like Nate is the most important person in the world, which like too much, in a too much kind of way. So for him, that's what he knows. Either you're the most important or you're completely forgotten and abandoned. And so I actually don't know what he's referring to in terms of Ted abandoning him. But yet maybe he'll say, but I can see how that setup gets activated in his mind.
And I worked my ass off trying to get.
And so he thinks he has to earn it back, because with his dad, he would have to earn it back. And he's been trying to earn it his whole life. And so he thinks he has to earn it with Ted. And that's not really how Ted operates, actually. But Nate doesn't know that. And I don't know if Nate will ever know that about people, that that's not what he has to do.
And now you're going to play Nate's false nine, so when the team fuck up, which they will, he can blame it on me. Well, no, fuck that.
He assumed, Nate's projection is that Ted's out to get him and out to humiliate him like his father would.
I didn't tell you how important you were to me enough. I'm sorry about that.
No, you're not. You're full of shit. Just fuck you, Ted.
Nate's structure inside his mind is such that he cannot hear that Nate does, or that Ted does mean that when he apologizes for not showing enough appreciation or something, and that Ted really does understand and recognize that Nate has worked his way up and worked hard for it. Ted believes that, and I know Ted feels that, but because of the setup in Nate's mind, he can't see Ted for who he is. He sees him as a projection of his own father. The minute that Ted abandoned him in whatever way he did, he became Nate's father. I must say, it's a very skillful setup to make Nate the villain. Masterful setup for the season. And psychologically sound, as I say about this show several times, it's psychologically sound.
Final thoughts about Nate also, and the and taking this position with Rupert. What I think is going to happen is he will submit to Rupert, because Rupert will be dominant in this scenario. And so he'll submit to him for a little while, and he'll like feeling chosen and wanted, and that will soothe him for a long time, or for a certain amount of time, until Rupert will inevitably do something to shame him or upset him or dismiss him, because that's very Rupert. And Nate will immediately start turning, or he will act like he does with his father, where he says nothing. It just depends on how Rupert plays it with him. If Rupert knows how to handle someone like Nate, he'll keep him pulled in and stroke him. That's a tough phrase I just used, but stroke him in his ego. And he might bash him also, But if he does it in the right way, Nate may still feel he's superior and will submit. It's, you know, it's hard to say, but usually what will happen is the same thing will happen. Ted pissed Nate off, hurt him deeply, wounded him, and Nate reacted. Nate will probably do the same thing. So for my final thoughts, I have two thoughts I want to get out. One is the pairing of Nate and Ted, which I think is really interesting because they both have suffered traumas related to their fathers, but have ended up coping with it very differently and viewing the world very differently. So Ted, he aims to keep people close, and sometimes to a fault, to himself and to others. And he's not really expressing his true self all the time, not really expressing what he really thinks or what he really needs all the time. So it does cost him, but it does keep people closer. Of course, when you see someone over time who has behaved like Nate, you're going to prefer usually someone like Ted. And then we have Nate, who actually is always trying to express himself and is always trying to put himself first, and as a way of finding success and finding the good feelings he's really craving. He really can't feel good about himself, whereas Ted, I think, can, and he has people that help him feel good about himself, whereas Nate only sees feeling good through certain versions of success. And it's interesting because he can't even really feel the warmth of the team, and that they actually do really support him. They want to do his play. They believe in it. They want what he has to say, but that doesn't get in. It's not success in the way that he wants it. He can only see it through a narrow lens. The other thing I wanted to say, I do think there's something important about Ted being a privileged white male coming from America. And wouldn't that, I mean, I could just totally see that pissing someone like Nate off, who Ted hasn't really earned it in the same way. I mean, sure, he's had some successes, but he hasn't really worked his way up in this world like Nate has. And Ted gets seen just for being his little doofy self, and whereas Nate works so hard to be some great version of himself. And so I imagine it's infuriating to him that someone who's less good or less smart is successful and gets attention and gets acceptance. Because for Nate, nothing gets him acceptance from his father, the main person. Nothing does. And here comes Ted, who gets that from other people and does it for his own son. And I imagine there's tons of envy in Nate for that too. So those are my thoughts. Back to other me. Thank you for watching if you've gotten this far, and let me know what else you'd like me to watch, what things you think I missed, what you'd like me to do next. Like and subscribe if you like this content, and I just appreciate you being here. Okay.